God, you are. Oh, you are. You are you. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. God, you are my peace. Peace is what you are. God, you are my love. Love is what you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. My joy, my peace, my love. My joy, my peace, my love. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. Yeah. God, you are my peace. Oh, peace is what you are. God, you are my love. Oh, love is what you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. My joy, my peace, my love. My joy, my peace, my love. God, you are my strength. Strength is what you are. God, you are my help. Oh, help is what you are. And God, you are my life. And life is what you are. God, you are my joy. And joy is what you are. You are my joy, my peace, my love. 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 God, you are my joy. Oh, yeah, yeah. Na, 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 na. God, you are. Oh, you are. You are, you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. God, you are my peace. Peace is what you are. God, you are my love. Love is what you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. My joy, my peace, my love. My joy, my peace, my love. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. Yeah. God, you are my peace. Oh, peace is what you are. God, you are my love. Oh, love is what you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. My joy, my peace, my love. My joy, my peace, my love. God, you are my strength. Strength is what you are. God, you are my help. Oh, help is what you are. And God, you are my life. And life is what you are. God, you are my joy. And joy is what you are. You are my joy, my peace, my love. 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 God, you are my joy. Oh, yeah, yeah. Na, 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 na. God, you are. Oh, you are. You are, you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. God, you are my peace. Peace is what you are. God, you are my love. Love is what you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. My joy, my peace, my love. My joy, my peace, my love. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. Yeah. are. God, you are my love. Oh, love is what you are. God, you are my joy. Joy is what you are. My joy, my peace, my love. My joy, my peace, my love. God, you are my strength. Strength is what you are. God, you are my help. Oh, help is what you are. And God, you are my life. And life is what you are. God, you are my joy. And joy is what you are. You are my joy, my peace, my love. 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 God, you are my joy. Oh, yeah, yeah. Na, 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 na.
Hello, hello. Happy Wednesday, beautiful people. It is always so good to be here with each and every one of you. So good to see y'all. Thank you for choosing to be here on Wednesday night. We're going to begin, of course, with prayer, and then we will get into the lesson for tonight. So I invite you right here and now, wherever you are, to just get still. And from this place of stillness, I invite you to take a conscious breath in and a conscious breath out. Together we breathe in and we breathe out. A third time, centering ourselves here and now into this moment, we breathe in and we breathe out. There is only one mind, one power, one presence that is working in all, through all, and as all. There is one life. That life is Mother, Father, God. That life is perfect, whole, and complete, and that life is my life now. That life is perfect, whole, and complete, and it is your life now. That life is perfect, whole, and complete, and it is our life. It is all life now. For God is everyone and everything. It is constantly encountered. It is everywhere, at every time, at every point. Yes, it is the mountain, the tree. Yes, it is you and me. Yes, it is the galaxy. Yes, it is all of these things and so much more. Present, presence. Present, presence. All of God is here now. All of good is here now. All wisdom and intelligence is here now. All answers are here now. All guidance is here now. All joy is here now. All good is here now. And as I recognize the nowness of this presence, as I recognize that it neither comes nor goes, I recognize the unifying reality that we are one with this power and presence and one of it. For each and every one of us live, move, and have our being in God, in spirit, in consciousness. And spirit, consciousness, lives, moves, and has its activity and expression in, through, and as us. For we are consciousness. the divine experiencing itself as us. We are unique, particularized, undivided expressions of the all in all. And for this reason, we have great power. For this reason, we live in great possibility. For this reason, we are worthy. For this reason, we are sinless. For this reason, we remain as God created us. For this reason, we are prosperous. For this reason, we are wise. For this reason, we are intelligent. For this reason, we are healthy. For this reason, we are happy. For this reason, we are successful. For this reason, all good is ours now. And so it is out of this awareness that we gather together for this truth study, to develop a deeper awareness at this conscious level of the reality that has always been the reality and will forever be the reality of our beingness. It was our reality before we incarnated into this form. It will be our reality when we lay down this form. It will be our reality when we pick up a new form. And so we celebrate this truth as one family, enlightening and enlivening our very being, our very experience of this beautiful gift of life, so that we can be a beneficial presence on the earth, lighthouses pointing others to the way of truth. So with joy and thanksgiving, I release this prayer. And from this place of release, with confidence, we say, Amen, Ashe. And so it is, and so it is, and so it must be. Well, hello again, everybody. It's so good to have you here. So good to see you here on a Wednesday night. If you are a first-time guest, I want to say hello and welcome to you if you're joining us for the very first time and connecting to Celebration Spiritual Center. We would love to stay in touch with you. And so this information you see here on your screen is how you can do that. You'll access your digital connection card. You can stay in touch with us. We can stay in touch with you. You'll receive our weekly newsletter that comes out on Fridays. And so all you have to do is text the keyword connect there to 347-472-1078. And as each and every one of you are here, we trust that you will support this stream. This is something that we will be continuing through the month of March. And based on the support that we receive, this is something that we may continue. And so you can let us know that you're enjoying it. And of course, as you are enjoying these sessions, definitely support it so that we can continue to bring this to you. You can go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give. You can text your dollar amount to 347-744-9500, or you can donate in the Church Center app. So again, happy to see y'all. I'm happy to be here with you all. Now, the first thing I always want to do is open the floor for questions. So if you have questions as we've been moving through this powerful sermon series, Tell the Truth, the Science of Spirit and How to Use It, I will answer those questions, incorporate those questions, those that are on Zoom. You can also actually join in, right? We can bring you into the stream and we can have a conversation as that's necessary. I also have something that I want to bring to you tonight and focus on as we continue to look at the two most recent lessons, right? Lesson 7, See the Spirit, and Lesson 8, Be Not Deceived. So again, if you have questions, if you brought questions, and if you found yourself troubled in any way related to the series, and something has come up, then I definitely want to address that, because that's really what these sessions are about. I recognize that as powerful as the series is, it will also bring up a lot of concerns, right? And it will kind of hit up against some places that may need to be healed. So as you're thinking about that and posting those questions, I want to start with a quote. And I want to start with a quote, as we're nearing the end of Black History Month. We have a couple more days. I want to focus in on a quote from Toni Morrison, because I actually think this quote is in alignment with Lesson 8 and something that Emma Curtis Hopkins writes in Scientific Christian Mental Practice about being deceived. And let me grab that quote. Okay, so, and this is one that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. I believe it was in an interview that she did with Charlie Rose. I believe that's where this quote comes from. My recollection is correct. But she said in that interview, she said, the very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. She goes on and she says, somebody says you have no language, and you spend 20 years proving that you do. Right? Somebody says your head isn't shaped properly. So you have scientists working on the fact that it is. Somebody says you have no art, so you dredge that up. Somebody says you have no kingdom, so you dredge that up. And she closes by saying, none of this is necessary. There will always be one more thing. Okay? Now, I know that this is a quote that resonates. It's a quote that I see people posting all the time, and the video clip circulates often. And while we recognize that it resonates, I don't know that it's something that we're always practicing. And particularly when we think about how this particular idea really resonates with the truth principle of see the spirit, but more importantly, lesson 8, which we covered on Sunday, be not deceived. And there's something interesting that Emma Curtis Hopkins writes in the chapter on be not deceived. She says very clearly that, and writes that distraction from your purpose is deception. And so it's the very same thing that Toni Morrison is talking about. Now, she's speaking to us related to the lens of racism, but of course we can think of all the other isms, right, and have the same conversation. None of this is necessary because there will always be one more thing. And so what this truth principle of be not deceived is also inviting you to embrace and start to practice is to not get pulled into the same old hamster wheel conversations, to not get pulled into the same old social media conversations, right? Right now, it's what happened at BAFTA and with Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo and I believe John Davidson is his name, who has Tourette's and all of the things, right? And people are mad at the BBC. People are mad at BAFTA. People are mad at Tourette's. People are mad at the gentleman who has Tourette's, right? And there's all of these different thoughts that are being pushed out, right? And I'm not here to rehash or talk about that. What I understand at the level of truth is all of its distraction, right? All of it is people spend, because this is the current thing, right? And then people will just attach on to the next thing and attach on to the next thing and attach on to the next thing and attach on to the next thing. And by the time you know it, 365 days have gone by and you're burnout, you're frazzled, you're stressed out, right? You can't think straight, right? And then you wonder why your life is not what it could be. You wonder why you hear these truth principles and believe these principles at a certain level, and yet the outpicturing isn't there. Or as you are experiencing some demonstrations, you're fearful that you're going to lose them. Or as you're experiencing some demonstrations, you're also experiencing some unwanted. And that has to do with this divided attention. That has to do with this deception. And so as metaphysicians, there comes a time, particularly after fully embracing lessons 1 through 6, after moving through a space of self-realization, which is what lessons 1 through 6 are really all about. And I will continue to remind you all, right? Take your time with these lessons, right? Spend as much time as you need with each lesson and recognize that lesson 1 through 6 is about that internal knowing. As you have established that internal knowing, now you can start to apply that to your world and the world at large. And so that's what we're talking about here now with lessons 7 and 8, that we see these things happening in the world at large and people are deceived. We see these things happening in the world at large and it is a distraction. Again, distraction from your purpose is deception. It's being deceived, right? because you're no longer operating from the truest point of who you are. You're no longer operating from your God consciousness. You're no longer operating from your divine awareness. Because the truth is, as you are able to keep the focus of your attention on what is true, which is this power and presence that's within you, then you are able, as you change change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? Then you are able to actually then shift and change the externals without manipulation. You are able to shift and change the externals without trying to make those things become something, right? And so this is really what the word and the message and the idea of be not deceived is really all about. I'm just checking YouTube real quick because I want to make sure I'm not missing. I see some comments, but I want to make sure I'm not missing anyone's questions. So again, a reminder for those that are just joining, if you have questions, please share those questions so that we can answer them and support you. So many wonderful questions have come forth. But again, this idea, it's absolutely time to step into this reality that none of this is necessary, this proving, right? And that's really what Toni Morrison is talking about here, right? Some of you are trying to prove in your romantic relationships, right? Some of you are trying to prove at work, right? Some of you are trying to prove to your children, and some of you children are trying to prove to your parents, right? None of this is necessary. It's all distraction. Now, why don't we have to prove? Well, because you remain as God created you. I mentioned the series that I did on the book of Job a few years ago. And you may remember one of the sermons in that series is I am pure gold. And I talked about how the metaphor of how gold is refined has been grossly misunderstood and misused based on a passage in the book of Job. Because Job is arguing with God, right? Defending his innocence, by the way, because he is innocent. And Job says, try me out, right? Put me through the test, put me through the fire, and I will come as pure gold. Now, and again, I break this down in the sermon, but that idea is a misunderstanding of what Job was saying, right? Folks have taken that line and then created this idea that God tests us and that the fiery tests of God make us gold, right? And so you need to go through the trials. You need to go through something because, God's got his hand on you and you're special. And so you're going to go through fire so that you can become pure gold. It's not what he was saying. In the ancient world, the way that you could tell if a metal was pure gold was by putting it in the fire. And because of the nature of gold, it's the color of the heat that would let you know that this is pure gold, right? So what Job was saying is, I am innocent. And if you use the test to prove true innocence, you will see, just like there's a test to determine that gold is pure gold, I will come out just the same. So this was never an idea of God making you gold, right? This was never an idea of going through some trial to become gold. The idea was that you are already pure gold. And so that's why that sermon, a powerful affirmation, I am pure gold. I'll share that in the CSC Live group for those that may have missed it. But I am pure gold. So this is why you don't have to prove anything. And then it all becomes a distraction. You're then operating from deception, right? And the deception is that you think you're not pure gold, right? The deception is you think that you have to convince someone else. And if you think you have to convince someone else, that then means that you don't actually believe that you remain as God created you. Again, so then that's why it's a deception, right? That in that circumstance, in that experience, at that time, you are operating from this awareness that you're not what God created, that you do not remain as God created you. And so one of the things that I love then about the book of Job is really that it is first a critique of the God that is problematic, and it's an exposure of a God that does not exist. And so the other beautiful thing that this lesson 8, right, be not deceived, is really supporting us in understanding and choosing to embrace. Well, I would say first understanding and recognizing, right, that there is a God that does not exist, that folks are worshiping, that folks are afraid of, that folks are killing in the name of, that folks are shaming and guilting in the name of, that folks are writing books in the name of, and yet it is not real, right? It's not real in the sense of a shadow isn't real, right? So you can see a shadow, right? We experience shadows, but we all know that shadows aren't real. Shadows aren't the thing, right? It's just a play of the light, right? And if you move the light a certain way, the shadow's there. If you move it another way, the shadow is what? Not there. And so the truth is, there is a God that all of us at some point in our lives, but definitely most of the world, accepted blindly or were taught about, and it doesn't exist. Again, it doesn't exist as much as a shadow only exists within a context, and then it's gone. And so when I admonish you from this lesson to be not deceived, what I am admonishing you is to let go of the God that does not exist. Pick up, tap in, tune into the God that does exist. And the God that does exist is with you and within you. The God that does exist, you see when you look in the mirror. The God that does exist speaks as you, thinks in you. The God that does exist, it loves you unconditionally. The God that does exist judges you not, judges no thing. The God that does exist is beyond the simplicity of right doing and wrong doing, right? The God that does exist only says yes, and it is so to you and to all existence. The God that does exist is love itself. And while many of us can quote the famous passage on love from Corinthians, and while many marriages and weddings use that passage, I don't know that we really think about what love is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, love holds no record of wrongs actually means, right? Because it flies in the face of the God that doesn't exist, right? The God that doesn't exist, which is the one that people treat as it exists, doesn't exemplify the attributes of love, right? The God that doesn't exist, it judges, it gets mad, it gets angry, it punishes, it fixes you. It'll send you into the wilderness, wandering around, right? The God that doesn't exist is the antithesis of love. And then, of course, we read in the Psalms that beautiful line that his mercy, God's mercy, endureth forever. And that word mercy is a misunderstood word, and because it's mistranslated, right? The best translation of that word, instead of the English word mercy, is loving kindness. Surely goodness and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life. God's loving kindness endures forever, which matches the end of again, the love verse in Corinthians. most translations we're familiar with says love never fails. That means not love never fails in terms of like winning or losing. Love never ends. Or the translation that I love to quote, love never exhausts itself. So it's unending, it's inexhaustible. Right? You can't be overloved or outloved by love. Right? It never exhausts itself. That means there's more than enough love for you. There's more than enough love for me. There's more than enough love for we. There is more than enough love for beings that we're not even aware of in other dimensions and other planets. There is more than enough love because love never exhausts itself. It doesn't run out. It doesn't run out. It doesn't run out. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I see a question and a comment. I just want to put that up on the screen so we can see it. But this is good. This is good. I understand and do agree that it is distraction proving and validating oneself in the current times. As a housing activist, I'm working in the present time to somewhat correct what has been done to us historically. So there is a walking in two worlds for me, one of history and one of changing the narrative that is showing up. How do I effectively do that? Great question, right? I love that. I love that question. So yes, there is a walking in two worlds. And you've got to question the second world, right? The external world, right? Because see, again, there's this sort of matter of factness about the two worlds, and we need to question that. Yes, there's a historical narrative, right? There's a historical narrative, and we understand that. And what is abundantly clear historically is that despite humanity's best efforts, the ways that we continue to address historical wrongs keep bringing us back to more wrongs. I mean, am I lying? I mean, this can be hard to hear, right? But the truth is, and we have enough historical evidence, right? We know the truth statement, right? That insanity is doing the same things over and over and over, expecting a different result, right? I'm not saying that marching was never productive. I'm not saying that protesting was never productive. I'm not saying that some of the other things that we've done as activists have never been productive. But one of the things that's interesting to me is that despite the best efforts, right, the things that we and folks have continued to do, right, it keeps bringing us back to there's just more harm and more harm and more harm and more harm, right? So I think when we think about the two worlds, there's the opportunity and the time has come for approaches that are really rooted and grounded in spirit, right? And the thing about that, then, when we talk about rooted and grounded in spirit and the be not deceived, there is an opportunity, I think, to partially there's I think a reframe even around who it is that we're supporting, right? I think sometimes there's a reinforcement as we put our attention on the harms. Metaphysically, we're doing a new harm because we're reinforcing an identity that isn't true. So yes, on the external, for instance, let's just say on the external, there's a person that's unhoused. But spiritually, that person is housed. I actually need to be able to see that person housed and whole, right? Because if I don't, unfortunately, what I'm doing, and again, I'm only speaking at the metaphysical level right now, and this goes back to the past couple of weeks that we were talking in this study session. The idea that, and I talked about it today, even in the prayer call, right? That all things are possible. Everything exists in the unmanifest. And so we no longer have to try to fix a problem, right? When we understand the reality that everything exists in the unmanifest, we simply have to tune into the reality that we desire. And then that other desire ultimately becomes dormant, right? It's not that, we want peace, right? War will still be possible, but we're no longer focusing in that direction to bring that into being, right? Everything that we do, everything that we create, every law that we pass is rooted and grounded in peace and equity and harmony and unity, right? Peace is not the absence of conflict, right? Or even disagreement, but because of if there's a sense and a desire that this is who we are and this is how we'll show up in the world, that's what we'll be. And so I think unintentionally, there has been a seeing folks as sort of less than they really are, right? What I'm reminded of, Reverend Ike famously would never participate in any poor people's marches. Now, Reverend Ike gave lots of money to the civil rights movement and supported a lot of causes in that period of time. But he said, what I'm not going to do is lie about those people. They're not poor. Like, I would be lying because it's true. They're not poor. Now, their external experience may be that, but that is not who they are. And of course, as Reverend Ike used to always famously quote, he said, the scripture says, let the weak say I am strong. Let the poor say what? I am rich. That's in your Bibles. And so there was the recognition that when and if we actually want to shift and change something, and again, this is a spiritual principle, if I am experiencing poverty, I actually need to remember that I am rich. I have to turn the full focus of my attention in that direction. If I am experiencing weakness, I need to remember I am strong. I need to turn the full focus of my attention to strength. And when I don't do that, then I'm operating in the deception, right? When I don't do that, I am then not acknowledging the truth that I remain as God created me. And here's the thing, because it's not that anybody's done anything wrong. We care not about that, right? That Sunday's message is going to be about sin. Right. The next lesson is go and sin no more. I'll just put it that way for now. So there's no guilt or shame around the how we got there. And again, this is what we've been taught to do when we think about historical wrongs. We think that we need to. It again takes me back to Toni Morrison, right? Well, somebody said, "Oh, racism isn't really that bad." So then we start breaking down the history. I can break down the history with the best of them. Like where you want to start, right? But we're telling the story of what we don't want. And so metaphysically, right, these truth principles, this is the point where it's like, we're going to walk in this truth, we're going to tell the truth, or we're going to be deceived, right? We're going to tell the truth, right? Or we're going to live beneath our privilege as divine beings, right? And so this is the powerful opportunity, right? I think activism is necessary, right? And spiritual activists are necessary, and so that requires then an approach that is radically different, right? That requires approach that looks a little different. So I would encourage you, when you think about the two worlds, right? What if the only history is that these souls are divine children of God, right? What if the only history is the history of the changeless being that they are? And so you recognize that as they are children of God, housing, it literally is their birthright. And so you are doing the work of demonstrating, and not even really just demonstrating, just aligning with the truth of who and whose they are, right? That's the work that you're doing. That's a different vibration, right? That's a different conversation. And then it frees you in a way, because then you are also not mired in the history, right? And telling the story of the history. You're telling the story of the now. So I think that's a powerful question. I see we have another question, a follow-up related to this. So this is good. This is good. Let me get that on the screen. If our metaphysical and spiritual task is to see the spiritual truth of a situation, is there more power in more people or awareness seeing the truth? Do numbers matter or is single aware? Good question. Good question. So do numbers matter? I think numbers can matter, but of course, I love to quote Ernest Holmes, one alone in consciousness with the divine constitutes a complete majority. Right. And so we've seen there beautiful stories all throughout the world of how a single person thinking and believing a certain way, changed a country, how a person thinking, believing a certain way, right, changed a family, changed an outcome, right? So we know that that's possible. And then, of course, we have in the example, right, in the Christ stories, we see that that's really how the truth operates, right? That the truth does not need numbers, right? In the sense of numbers, not so much in the way that you're using it here, but numbers in the sense of we in our humanness so often feel like, okay, I need, somebody to agree with me, or I need, I feel better if I'm locked arms with a couple other people, right? The truth needs that not, right? Because the truth is 100% aligned with spirit, which is the most powerful force that exists. And at the same time, because spirit is all, technically you have the numbers, right? You have billions with you. And so what I was smiling as I was reading the question, because then what this reminds me of is the Maharishi effect, which I mentioned earlier in one of our previous sessions. Right, the Maharishi effect. There was a theory, and it was just a theory that Maharishi presented that said that the square root of 1% of a population is all that's needed to have this group of people meditating on a daily basis will actually shift and change, transform the society. And eventually, thankfully, there were scientists that gathered together and they were able to prove this. It's been proven all around the world. The study that I love to quote all the time goes back to the 90s in Washington, D.C. In the 90s in Washington, D.C., D.C. was called the murder capital, right? There was a lot of stuff going on in D.C. Mayor Marion Barry was arrested for smoking crack. The crack epidemic was really bad in D.C., lots of violence, gang violence, et cetera, or drug-related violence, right? And so this seemed like the last place that a group of people meditating could make any change. And then also they chose to do this in the summer. And historically, there's that word, based on the data, right? Summertime is when things really heat up, right? There's more violence, right? And so they gathered a group of meditators, right? The square root of 1% of the population of Washington, D.C. They gathered all the data. They partnered with the D.C. Police Department, right? Doing all of the right things to make sure that it was an adequate study. And so they had groups of meditators come in. It was a small group at first. And eventually that group built up as folks were traveling into DC to the numbers that they needed. And of course, what happened? There were less murders, there was less violence, but not only that, there were less car accidents, there were less admissions to the hospital during that period of time. Now, the reason that this is true has to do with oneness. And I like to think about it the way it was explained to me, and I think about it is, if you're in a pool, if I'm on one end of the pool and you're on the other end of the pool, if I start to move around, right, the waters of the pool ripple, and they ripple towards you. If you move around, the waters will ripple and they ripple back to me. See, we're one, right? And we're all in the same pool. And so if you have any group of people vibrating at that transcendent, unified level of consciousness, because the transcendental awareness, that consciousness is unity consciousness, is God consciousness. That's where you're sitting in. That's the water that you're swimming in. And so then it reverberates at a level that's beyond our conscious five senses. And so it impacts everyone. This was also done in places like Lebanon, right? When there was violence and war, right? It's been done all over the world and continuously proven that this works. So no, you don't need numbers. And what's powerful is we've seen what can happen when you have numbers, but a number that is infinitesimally small, right? When you think of the square root of 1% of a population, that's a really small number of meditators compared to the number of people that it impacts, right? And this goes back to I think it was in our very first session when I talked about the idea of, I think the question was about what are we being protected from if we say God is our protection, God is our defense. And what's happening is we're establishing orderliness. And so then life begins to respond in that way. And it reminds me of, as the old church folks used to say when I was coming up, danger seen and unseen, that we're just protected, right? There's just things that just don't show up. There are things that we just don't entertain, that don't even come into our sphere of awareness because of the order that we've established. So that's a great question. Yeah, yes, a single awareness is enough. I have a song I wrote. I was just listening to it recently, and I don't know that we've done it at CSC, but it starts with me. It starts with me, right? The love that I seek, it starts with me, right? So all you need is yourself. One alone in consciousness with the divine constitutes a complete majority. Lord, that's a powerful, powerful awareness, right? Complete majority. And so operating from that place, you absolutely can move mountains. Operating from that place, you can speak an everlasting no, and that thing must move. That thing must disappear. Operating from that single awareness, right? You can speak to those things which are unwanted, and they must go. That's the power. That's the power. I see we have another question. Regarding the example, let me pop this up so everyone can see it. Regarding the example, are we to declare and hold an image of the person as housed while knowing we are divine beings, and then allow God within to manifest the person as housed? Right. So this is good, right? We're getting to a how and a little bit of the intellect, but all good, right? So regarding the example of declaring and holding an image of the person as housed. So specifically, and this is if this is your work, right? What I would recommend doing is as you are doing your morning routines, right? You have your daily spiritual practice. I would suggest then writing a prayer treatment or affirmation that you use to speak to it, right? Recognizing that you may be working with different souls, different beings throughout the day. Because what's really important, it's not just about declaring and holding an image, right? It's you must convince yourself of the truth of who and what they are. Right. So let's go back to when we think about all of the infamous stories that we know about Jesus, right? Jesus wasn't simply, declaring and holding an image. I think I mentioned it on Sunday, the story of the woman with the issue of blood, right? Who just touches the hem of his garment and he's healed. She's healed. He wasn't holding an image and declaring, right? He wasn't thinking about that woman, right? What happened and what can always happen, right, for any and every one of us is that there's an absolute knowing that every soul, every being is God in form. So this goes back to nothing emerges from consciousness except consciousness. Nothing emerges from God except God. Right? And so the work, the opportunity, and you can't get there till you know this about yourself. Because once you know this about yourself, you've come to the awareness of knowing it about yourself because you know your oneness with spirit and you understand who spirit is. Once you know that you are one with spirit, Jesus, I, and my Father are one, right? No man cometh to the Father but by me. That's what he was saying, right? Not that Jesus is the only way. He was like, I am one. I am one. If you have seen me, you have seen the Father. If I have seen you, I have seen God. Right? So once you're at that awareness, then the next logical step, the reasoning is, and so is everyone and everything, because I recognize that spirit is everyone and everything. As you are able, when I say I, I'm not speaking of the personal I. As one is able to come to that awareness, then the next awareness is, and this is true of everyone. And so then that is how you see everyone, and that is how you interact with everyone. So yes, you can, and I would say this would be sort of an early entry step, right? Have an affirmation, declare, hold an image. But really where the power is, this again, lessons 1-6, that inner realization of yourself. And then you know that there's only one self. And so you're no longer holding the image. You're interacting with yourself in another form. You're interacting with God in another form. You're interacting with spirit in another form. And that's the stuff of miracles, right? That's the juiciness of miracles, right? That's the seasoning, right? That makes miracles taste good. And so I love that. I love that question. I love this question, right? Because yes, again, declare, hold the image, right? Knowing that we're all divine, that we are God in form, and then allow God in, through, and as them to demonstrate as the reality that I do not accuse the spirit of being unhoused, no more do I accuse you of it. I'm not going to lie on the spirit. Your spirit walking on the earth. Spirit is always housed. Spirit is always protected. Spirit is always supported. Spirit always has a foundation, right? And that's the knowingness, right? That's the knowingness. And then again, that's where and how powerful miracles come forward. That's a great question. Great question. Any other questions? I love what's coming up. Of course, I can keep talking, and I will. But this is, I think what was just kind of coming through, right? I think this is the powerful opportunity. Right? This powerful opportunity to know yourself as spirit. Right? That's one of the, we have I'll pop it on the screen. We have I will put it on the screen, the universal affirmations. We have the universal affirmations, and one of those universal affirmations is, I am spirit, mind, wholeness. And I don't, we may just be saying them as just words, right? But the opportunity is, as you continue to affirm this, one of the things Emma Curtis Hopkins writes about it in the text, and she admonishes us all, right, to continue to affirm these and continue to speak these and continue to lean into it. And it may not be, the first time, the first weeks. It might not even be through the duration of this 3-part series. But as you continue to affirm and speak these truths, there is a fire that will be lit in you, right? And once that fire is lit, it's unquenchable, right? It's the thing, I come from the Pentecostal holiness tradition, right? So it's that Jeremiah said, it's like fire shut up in my bones, right? It's that thing that something got a hold of me and I can't let it go, right? You will no longer be able to unsee that truth. You will no longer be able to operate in a way that's no longer true. And this fire then what's beautiful, thinking about the metaphor of fire and the metaphor of light, right? If you try to cover up fire, it burns the things that you cover it up with, right? If you try to, hide the light, if it just gets a little crack, it's gonna seep through, right? So you once you've tapped into that, you're not going to be able to operate in a way that doesn't align with that truth anymore, right? So continue to work with these affirmations, continue to work with these truths, because they are a light unto your path, right? And they are designed to really awaken something powerful in you. So I wanted to just pull up these affirmations, right? But that number 3, I am spirit. And I always, when I read this, I put I am in front of every word, right? I am spirit, I am mind, I am wisdom, I am truth, I am wholeness. Right? That's the one alone in consciousness with the divine. That's the complete majority. Because spirit is everything, in all things, as all things. Mind, there is one mind working in, through, and as all. Wisdom, all the expressions of wisdom is just the one wisdom expressing as those things, those people, those moments. I am truth. I am wholeness. Good question. Oh, this is a wonderful question. Yes. Let me pop this up. Because the title of Sunday's sermon was Judge from Yourself, right? And so what does it mean to judge? So what it means to judge means just determine, right? So when, I don't know, you taste some food, right? And you decide if you like it or not, right? I mean, that is a judgment, but it's a determination. I think so oftentimes because judge has been used in so many negative ways, that we think of judging or being judgmental as a negative. But here's the reality. When we're operating in deception, when we are deceived, we're also making judgments, right? So in the allegorical story, the second creation story that we read in Genesis, right? Adam and Eve ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and they started to make judgments. And we don't think of it in that way. No, they made a judgment. They made a judgment that, we need to hide from each other. Something about this beautiful being that I was created as, something about it needs to be hidden. I need to put on fig leaves, right? That was a judgment, right? That was a judgment. They weighed two options, and they were like, me as I am, right? Which is kind of the metaphor, right? Just who you are as you are, there's something wrong with it. And so first, I have to hide from myself, because let's remember this, right? According to that story, right? And it's the second creation story. The first creation story, by the way, is really the truth story. The second creation story is the deception story. In the first creation story, humankind are created male and female. All was well. There's no apple, there's no snake, there's no tree. None of that happens. That's the truth story. In the deception story, as the writer wrote it, the writer wanted us to understand that Adam and Eve were one, right? Because according to the story, right, Eve comes out of Adam's rib. Well, if Eve is essentially Adam's rib, right, in form, and of course we're both Adam and Eve. This is not about male and female, masculine and feminine, right? If Eve is Adam in a different form, why would they need to hide from each other, right? So that judgment, they believed they were hiding from themselves. You hear that? They were hiding from themselves. This is what we do, right? This is the deception story, right? Right? There was a judgment that there's something wrong with me. So I need to hide from myself first, because that's what Adam and Eve hiding from each other and covering each other up. That's what that really reflects. And then also I need to hide from God, which is my highest self. Again, the second creation story is the deception story, right? When you start to read it that way, it's profound, right? And Emma Curtis Hopkins speaks to this, because if you look at the second creation story, we know what happened. God allowed Adam to name everything. Well, see, this takes me back to A Course in Miracles, and this is why I brought it up in Sunday's message, right? Nothing I see in this room on this street means anything, right? I only see the past, right? Part of what we've done, the deception, is we've named and judged things, right? Given assigned meaning and roles to things that may not actually be the truth of who and what they are, right? And so that's what Adam does in that story. Adam names things, right? And makes things a reality according to his understanding or lack of understanding, right? It's the deception story, right? So there was a judgment that took place. And so that judgment and that they made, right, was incorrect. But, they were standing on business. God asked them, who told you you were naked, right? The idea is, I don't see you this way. And the idea is that there's nothing wrong with you, right? But they doubled down on that belief. And so then the curse, because you believe this way, it is impossible for you to live in paradise. Impossible, right? It's not a judgment from God, right? It's not a punishment. It's impossible to live in paradise when you believe, judge, and choose in that way. And so the opportunity is to recognize that judgment is not bad or wrong, but there is correct judgment and there's incorrect judgment, right? There's loving judgment, and we're talking about for self, right? And through self, right? And there's unloving judgment, right? And so when we're judging from the level of spirit, it's seeing from the level of spirit. It's the judgment is a lens that you have on, right? And when we are operating in deception, I'm just going to use this color. Forgive me, and anybody, if this is your favorite color, I'm just using it, right? So if we say that the level of deception was the color red, right? And we have on red glasses, we're going to see everything through that lens, right? Everything is going to be filtered. But if the level of knowingness then is green, choosing green because it's the heart chakra, right? Color. Then we're going to see everything through that lens, and everything is going to look starkly different than when we had that red filter on. So that's what it means, judgment. It's really about that assessment. It's really about what filter do we have on. And this is, of course, why we do the work to heal our minds, to heal our lives, so that we can see clearly, right? So that we can even catch ourselves, right? Because there are, oh my God, plenty of times, right? I'll see something and think it's a certain way, right? I'll read something. Anybody ever read an email and you were like, what? And then you go back and read it and it was like, oh, okay, what they actually, right? That's, right? There was a judgment, and then you came back and made a different judgment, right? It's like, oh, okay, I see what's being said, right? Right? I was ready to cuss somebody out, right? There was no need for that, right? There was no need for that. Something that PY and I, we do, just some phrase that we say to ourselves all the time, right? As we're, seeing things out in the world or in our lives or in the lives of people we know, is we always come back to all I know is all is well, right? And part of that is affirming that is even a recognition that I don't have all the information, right? Even when I have a lot of information, even when I think I have all the information, it's impossible for me to have all the information. And so I can know all is well. All I know is all is well. And not in the sense of I'm washing my hands of it and I'm not going to be a beneficial presence, right? But I have to get back to all I know is all is well, because it is only from that vantage point that I am then receptive to a constructive idea, that I'm then receptive to intelligence, that I'm then receptive to, a pathway, right? That is loving, that is empathetic, that is compassionate. And I think this is also then is coming to mind now. One of the things we also find as I talk about the attributes of love, right? Love being patient. Part of that patience really also has to do with not being quick to respond, right? We live in a society now, because of social media and all the stuff, right? That everybody quickly wants to, get their point of view out. Everybody quickly wants to do a video. Everybody quick, I'm going live in 10 minutes, and everybody quickly wants to write Substack articles. Everybody, right? But love is patient, right? And so that means that maybe you will speak, maybe you will respond, maybe there's something, for you to say. But out of your patience, you're going to gather more information, but also out of your patience, you get to really make sure that you're rooted and grounded in spirit, right? Out of your patience, because your goal is to do no harm, right? Your goal is to only provide something that's beneficial, only provide something that's constructive, because there's so much noise out here in the world. And so when we think about judging from spirit, right, and judging from the self, that also then requires us to be very patient, right? And sometimes, you might be thinking, oh, well, but I need to make a choice, right? There's sometimes things I'm being asked to make a choice right away, right? I bet you got 5 minutes, right? I bet you can ask can you give me 15 minutes? Can you give me 10 minutes? Step away, right? Step away. This goes back to the Miracle Minded series. What was the first condition of a miracle? Emptiness. And that emptiness was about connecting with source, right? So that then it can move through you, right? So whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, even if something requires your response, always, always, always step away. That's an expression of patience, right? And that's also an expression of power, because when we rush to make a decision, if you think about it, right, that means that somewhere there was the fearful mind was operating, right? Somewhere even a lack or a limitation mind was operating. The Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu writes about it, right? You can look at life. Life never rushes, and yet it accomplishes everything. It accomplishes everything. One of the most fascinating things to me about being on this soil, right, this island currently called Barbados, is I daily thank all of the souls that had to exist for this island to exist. This island is 100% limestone rock, right? It's not volcanic. What that means is that the rock, it's literally fossilized beings that over millions of years built up, and ultimately this island emerged out of the Caribbean Sea. And I get to be a beneficiary, to be here to experience something that it took millions of years and countless numbers of beings, God in form, to exist for me to be able to walk on this soil, right? And so, that when you think about the power of that, again, I'm always grateful, but it's that idea that love never rushes and it accomplishes everything, right? Life never rushes and it accomplishes everything. And so this island represents that for me. Like, look what life accomplished, right? People spend all kind of money just to come here for like a week's vacation, right? Right, look what life accomplishes. It never rushes, and yet it accomplishes everything. right? Spring doesn't rush winter out of the way, right? Winter doesn't rush fall out of the way. Everything is accomplished. Everything is accomplished. And so that's that beauty, that outpicturing of patience. So that was a great question. That was a great question. I love that. This is a powerful, powerful conversation. Some beautiful awarenesses have come up. I'm really excited about Sunday's lesson. It was hard for me not to I was trying not to, to teach some of that stuff. But we are, again, the lesson 8, really the word of the lesson is actually harmony, right? But my sermon is go and sin no more, because really what we're talking about is sin, how to see and understand sin. And when we are not living in sin in the sort of that traditional religious sense, but when we are over identifying sin in the external, and it creates that discord, right? We're out of harmony. And so the 7th lesson is about, or I'm sorry, 9th lesson is learning about how to live in harmony with thought and the external world. And so we got to understand sin, put it in its proper context, and operate in the way that Jesus spoke, right? Go and sin no more. Right? What is that really about? What is that really about? I see this question: when I see my students acting up when I'm a substitute teacher, should I see a classroom of little spirit? Oh, this is good. I'll put up of little spirit beings and just respond lovingly. I pause and then say, what? While the noise is in the room. Right. Yeah, just start to practice that. And here's, again, it's always the preconditioning that's really the thing. So if you're able, right, if you get in the classroom before they get in the classroom, right, and you have that moment in the classroom, survey that classroom, you see all the desks, and then close your eyes, and then just see spirit in every seat, right? You can write an affirmation around that, right, as it's beneficial to you, but that's the first thing, right? And then I would encourage you also to speak to those souls and remind them this is not who you are. This is another thing. People and I joke all the time. We were like, I think all of us, it would be awesome if we were named differently, right? Some of us have very powerful names that have powerful meaning. But like, if your mother named you Wisdom, right? And then it's like, Wisdom. And then you act in some other way. It's like, that's not who you are. What's your name? Wisdom. What's your name? Wisdom. Right? You would start to embody, right, the reality of your name. And so, even with the kids, or you can say, it's like, this is not who you are, right? Just from a calm, centered place. I know who you are. This is not who you are. So let's try that again. From that vantage point, you can start to call forth, right, the truth of them. But I think it really starts with that preconditioning, because that's for you, right? You have to be able to see that. Again, condition 1 of a miracle, right? That's what that emptiness is all about in the using of that story, right? That's how Jesus was then able to, when the people followed him, when he was going off to just be one with Source, he was moved with compassion, right? And healed the sick, right? Yeah. I'm seeing the last comment, and then we'll close. When I focus on the definition of surrender as extraordinary trust, I have incredible peace and clarity. Although you gave this definition in the past, I somehow was able to receive it this time. I love that. I love that. Yes, surrender, it's the thing, right? And surrender is a point of power, right? It's absolutely a point of power, right? When we look at, on the chemical, right, elemental level, right? Each element surrenders to the other, right? And creates a powerful expression, sometimes explosions, right? That's surrender, right? Each has to surrender to the other to create something new. All right, beautiful souls. I love and appreciate y'all. This was, again, powerful, always fun, always a joy. Again, by all means, for those that are able to give, please support this stream and support this study. We'll do 2 more for the month of March. And, then we'll see where we go after that, right? We'll continue the conversations. I'll post some things as well in the CSC Live group. So for those of you that are there, post some other links. And if you're not in the CSC Live group, why not download the Church Center app, join us in the group. And I look forward to seeing you all on Sunday. All right. Bye for now.